When we begin to look at strategies for constraints and for constraining sketches, there are a variety of different ways we can constrain our sketches. One major point of clarification needed. Constrained objects are always black within the sketch workspace, and you can tell if a sketch is fully constrained by looking at the sketch icon in the sketches folder. If it is black with a red lock, that means your sketch is fully constrained. You can also see with the shape that I've created that it is fully black, meaning it is fully constrained. One important aspect when constraining sketches is understanding how modifiers can affect sketches. For example, we can look at a triangle. Start by making a sketch with a line 25 millimeters horizontal to the right. Make a vertical line, but without a length. Make sure it has the vertical constraint applied, or a perpendicular constraint, so that it is always up and down. Add a line connecting the two other ends of the lines to make a triangle. This sketch is obviously unconstrained, since the angle and distance of the two lines are not defined, meaning they also have an unconstrained distance. We can actually fully constrain this sketch with one dimension, however, an angle. If we define the angle for the hypotenuse and the horizontal line, we will actually constrain the entire sketch, even the lengths of these two lines. Apply a dimension constraint to make an angle, and make it 30 degrees. We will notice that our entire sketch is black. In looking in the sketch folder, we will see that our sketch is fully constrained. This means that a single angle will constrain both of these lines. We can also change this to change the length of both lines. What is actually happening is the lengths of these two lines are dependent on that angle. So while they don't have a set distance, the angle that we created sets its distance. This means that if we want to make some geometry, we can define dimensions off of other dimensions, such as defining length with angle, or angle with position. One other thing to understand is what over-constraining is. Over-constraining is where you try to apply a constraint to a sketch object that is already fully constrained. If we try to apply that to an angle, such as a dimension constraint to define the length of the hypotenuse, Fusion is going to give us an error. Here we can see that Fusion tells us that the object is over-constrained. This means that we cannot apply a dimension to that line, because the dimension is already constrained by the angle. Since we can't have two tags defining the same object, we cannot add another constraint to that object. When we see this option pop up, we also have the option to create a driven dimension. When we do this, we can see that the dimension created is within parentheses. This type of dimension is simply a tag that adapts to the length of that line. If I change this angle back to 30 degrees, we will see that that dimension changed. That dimension is mostly just a tag that says its length, and can be used to define other lines. If we create a line here, and create a dimension constraint, we can then select this dimension tag, which it identifies as dimension 8, and it will set that distance to be equal to this line. You could also do the same thing with an equal constraint. This is just a different way to do it. And of course, if we change that angle, it will also change this line.